This has probably rarely been done. It's unknown territory in the truest sense. But I really feel confident. I feel that Kim Jong-un wants to do something great for his people, and he has that opportunity, and he won't have that opportunity again.
Kim arrived here about 4 hours before the president. Singapore's foreign minister greeting him on the tarmac. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is reporting live here with us. Good afternoon, John. What is the latest?
Ed, is it afternoon? I think it's still morning here in Singapore. The 12-hour time difference sometimes gets you a little bit confused. The president, though, when he was arriving here last night and before he embarked from the G7 summit in La Bay, Quebec, to come here to Singapore, really downplaying expectations for what can happen in one meeting between the two leaders, but at the same time sending that strong message to Kim Jong-un that this is your one shot to get this done. This is your only opportunity. It's an opportunity that's not going to come again. The unspoken message there to Kim Jong-un, if this thing falls apart and you go back to pursuing nuclear weapons, it's not going to work out well for you. 60 minutes time from now, when it is afternoon, the president is going to meet with the summit host, Lee Hsien Loong. He is the prime minister of Singapore. Lee, after meeting there with Kim Jong-un yesterday, you see them shaking hands, also playing down the possibilities of what might happen in a first meeting, saying that this is going to be, quote, a long process. The president says, at a minimum, he hopes tomorrow to develop a relationship with Kim Jong-un and get that process started. Listen here.
As a deal person, I've done very well with deals. What you want to do is start that. Now, I'd like to accomplish more than that. But at a minimum, I do believe at least we'll have met each other. We will have seen each other. Hopefully, we will have liked each other, and we'll start that process.
The president has got a couple of meetings with Lee Hsien Loong this afternoon. He's got the bilateral meeting with him and then an expanded bilateral meeting. Then the president will go back to his hotel. He'll meet with embassy staff here in Singapore. And then he is going to have an extensive briefing, Ed, with his North Korea staff on the ground here in preparation for tomorrow's summit. So a big afternoon for the president.
Absolutely. And, John, in that soundbite, he sort of alluded to his background as a deal maker and the fact that he wants to kind of go with his gut here, not just the preparation with the staff. How will these meetings play out in terms of the format and whether that may play into the president's instincts or not?
As we understand, and of course things could change between now and tomorrow morning, but the first meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning on Sentosa Island, which is just kind of behind me over there, is going to be simply between the president and Kim Jong-un. It will be a one-on-one. The only other people in the room, we understand, will be the translators. And then after that, they will have an expanded bilateral meeting where the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, will be there, Chief of Staff John Kelly, as well as John Bolton, the National Security Advisor. The president wants, at a minimum, to get face-to-face with Kim to say, look, this is what's possible. And you remember back to November when the president gave that speech before the parliament in South Korea, in Seoul, the president holding out an olive branch to Kim to say, there's a very bright future ahead of you if you choose a different path in the pursuit of nuclear weapons. Something else that's interesting to take note of, Ed, Sentosa Island and the Capella Resort where they will be meeting is kind of the fun island of Singapore. That's where the Universal Studios theme park is. There's at least 3 roller coasters over there. So I'm thinking photo op. What do you think?
Boy, that might not be the right image, John, of a roller coaster ride, but an interesting idea. John Roberts covering the story for us morning, noon, and night, I suspect, but still got the stamina. John, we'll get back to you as news develops.
16. Recently, the president has made good on his promises by imposing significant tariffs on imports of steel. At the forefront of the Trump administration's trade efforts is Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who, it turns out, is no stranger to the steel industry. Ross earned a large portion of his wealth with incredibly timely investments in struggling steel companies in the early 2000s. He managed to buy one such company, LTV, just a week before President George W. Bush imposed his own tariffs on steel imports, dramatically raising the value of the company. Ross's steel investments became so valuable that less than 3 years after the Bush tariffs, Ross sold them to Indian steel giant ArcelorMittal for $4.5 billion, turning a $3 million personal investment by Ross into a $260 million profit, and also earning him a seat on the board of ArcelorMittal, which would become the world's largest steel producer. Nothing wrong with that, right? Just a smart businessman who made a lot of money and is now putting his expertise to use in government for the benefit of all of us. But is it, though? President Trump's steel tariffs included a number of exemptions, which mean big business for companies that bring steel from those countries to the United States. Nautical Bulk Holdings, a shipping corporation based in Bermuda, is one of them. When it was started in 2013, investors spent $100 million on 8 64,000-ton Ultramax ships from China. They began shipping products in 2015, and since May 2016, 458 out of their 735 shipments to the United States, that's 62%, have included steel from South Korea, one of the countries with a temporary exemption from steel tariffs. The fate of that exemption is now in the hands of our Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who's negotiating these tariffs. Guess who co-founded the shipping firm bringing steel here from South Korea, Nautical Bulk Holdings, and who remains an owner? It's kind of unbelievable, even for regular viewers of Swamp Watch, but the answer is Wilbur Ross. He's negotiating over South Korean steel imports while making money from importing South Korean steel. But not only is Ross still an owner of Nautical Bulk Holdings, his chief of staff at the Commerce Department, Wendy Teramoto, is listed as a director of Nautical Bulk Shipping, a business associated with Nautical Bulk Holdings, even though she claims to have resigned from the company in July 2017. And Nautical Bulk is not the only shipping company Wilbur Ross is invested in with massive conflicts of interest. Navigator Holdings is an oil and gas shipping firm with a number of international clients, including a major oil company in Turkey, which has recently been considered for economic sanctions. Ross bought a 19% stake in the company in 2011 and increased it to 39% in 2013, according to SEC filings. He also served as a company director between 2012 and 2014. In November 2017, 8 months after joining the Trump administration, Ross announced that he would divest from Navigator Holdings. But as of today, there is no evidence he's kept that promise. And that's not even the end of it. Ross's private equity firm, W.L. Ross & Company, also co-founded and partially owns another shipping company, the Transportation Recovery Fund. That one specializes in the importing of auto parts. Do you think that might affect Wilbur Ross's handling of President Trump's proposed tariffs on auto imports? But wait, there's more. According to SEC filings, in 2014, Ross's firm owned 32% of another company called Diamond Shipping, one of the world's largest owners and operators of medium-range product tankers. Ross even served as chairman of the company until joining the Commerce Department. Like Navigator Holdings, Ross promised to divest from Diamond Shipping in November 2017. But again, there's no evidence he actually did. So let's take a look at some of Diamond Shipping's, in other words, Wilbur Ross's clients. It's quite the motley crew. There's Lukoil and Novatek, two of the largest energy companies in Russia. There's Gazprom, the notorious Russian state-owned industrial giant and the world's largest producer of natural gas. Another client is PetroChina, the Chinese state-owned oil and gas company. The brutal communist dictatorship in Beijing may be planning world domination, but hey, let's not let that stop America's Commerce Secretary doing business with them while in office. Wow, talk about globalism. Wilbur Ross must be the toast of Davos. But wait, he's not done. There's another real charmer on Wilbur Ross's Diamond Shipping client list. PDVSA. What's that, you ask? Oh, just the state-owned oil company of Venezuela. Look, Ross is not the first business person in government with blatant conflicts of interest. President Obama's Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker, a billionaire heir to the Hyatt hotel fortune, owned another company, Artemis Real Estate, which bought a building in Alexandria, Virginia, that they then rented to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, part of Pritzker's own Commerce Department, for $1.4 million a year. Her department even awarded a $10 million grant to a clean energy company co-chaired by her own cousin, Nick Pritzker. But this stuff from Wilbur Ross is in a different league of swampiness. Did Wilbur Ross tell President Trump about these conflicts? Does the president know that the man negotiating tariffs designed to protect American workers from imports is making money from shipping those imports to America? It is truly astonishing. When President Trump gets back from Singapore Let's hope he finds time to toss Wilbur Ross. By the way, we reached out to Wilbur Ross's office asking if they had any comment on our story, but we have not received any response. We would love to know what you think on social media at NextRevFNC and at Steve Hilton X.